You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to JW World News. Well, we do it every Saturday night and every other Sunday. We're glad you're with us, and we've got a lot of news to talk about tonight in the Watchtower. Friends, I have to tell you, things are really going on in there. All the bad news coming across the press, it's unbelievable. But we'll tell you about it tonight, and we'll get people calling in and giving their spin on it as well. Stay with us. Well, hello everyone, and welcome in once again to the Six Screens Telenetworks program, JW World News. Well, we have a number of programs here on our telenetwork, and we have a number of people who are former Jehovah's Witnesses for the most part that do these programs we have, and we're so glad they do a great job. We just heard from Anne Marie with her Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower program. And, you know, there's more and more witnesses that are getting out. And when you have a forum like this that's actually in real time, it really helps many, many Jehovah's Witnesses that are starting to exit the Watchtower. Now, we know there's many that are physically in, mentally out, the PMOs, but we want to also mention tonight, we want to mention the PIMQs. Yes, those that are physically in and mentally questioning the organization. And there's a number of those right now. I'll tell you right now, we have some listening in to a program right here tonight. So why don't you stay with us, PIMQs? And even though you're questioning it, but you know, if you hear something on our program tonight that you say, that's not true, Rick, well, we'll look it up. We try to keep everything factual as we can. You know, people call in from all over the world. Sometimes they may say things that are not really fact checked, but you can check it out yourself. So hang in here with us and listen to what has to be said here tonight. We're going to talk about some of the news that goes on in the Watchtower, and then we're going to get your thoughts on it as well. I'm just going to make sure one thing is happening here. Let me just get in and check one thing. We have a number of platforms that we're broadcasting on here tonight. And let's see. Okay. It's time to, okay. I have a lot of people writing in at the same time. I can't read all the messages, folks. So if you're messaging me, just hang in there and, you know, we'll try to get back to you when we can. Sometimes I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but we'll get back to you. You know, just leave the message here and I'll try to get in and let you know what's going on. He's not on the screen. Rick is not on the screen. Okay. I just want to check one thing here, folks, on our Six Screens platform here. They're saying I'm not on the screen, but that's okay. Here I am now. All right. If you can't see me, at least you can hear me. I mean, that's a wonderful thing too, just to listen to what's going on. So let's take a look. Let's see what's going on behind the curtains. By the way, my name's Rick Ferrin. I'm coming from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. We call it the epicenter for apostasy. Well, let's take a look. Boy, I really see that the flock of God, as they would think they are, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they think they're the flock of God. Well, they're being sheared by the elders, by the organization. And the elders manual, it just came out, a new edition just came out in October. And they're making recommendations in the book that elders really put the squeeze play on the Jehovah's Witnesses to donate excess funds to the worldwide work. Now, this is a responsibility, kind of a new responsibility that many of the elders have now found themselves in. And it's not easy. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy being an elder in Jehovah's Witness organization. And so they have new responsibilities that are outlined in the latest edition of the Shepherd the Flock book. Now, that's that secret manual book that Jehovah's Witness elders have. We've got some people. I'm just, would you please mute yourself if you could? Just mute yourself if you're on our program here tonight. Just mute yourself, hit *6. Let me go. Hold on one second. We have, okay, there we go. We have an open line here, folks, so people can call in, but from time to time we hear people calling in. But anyways, this idea of the elders now having a new position, so to speak, they've got to really crank up the rank and file to give more money. And that's a responsibility that's going to really make it tough for the elders, because I'll tell you what, if the excuse me, if the congregation can't crank the money out, then they're going to have to dig into their own pockets. So they're trying to come up with what they call a target balance. The Watchtower wants each congregation to determine how much they can send to the Watchtower, to the worldwide work, every month. And that target balance can be quite excessive. It depends on how many people are in the congregation, but they're looking for about $9 to $10 from each person, and then they're going to send that money in. So, if you have 100 people, it's $1,000 a month. You have 120, well, it's $1,200 a month. So that's basically the target balance that the elders are trying to come to grips with and send into the Watchtower. So they're making recommendations to the congregations on how they can really do this. They're more or less asking people to kind of give that money. Now, even though some can't. Now, if you've got a family and say your husband, your wife, you get 2 teenage kids, they're looking for $40 from you. And some of the witnesses, I mean, they can't afford that. But this is a pressure now that's being put on the elders. They want that target amount of money, a target balance each month. Now, the Watchtower has always strong-armed congregations. But as the years have gone on, it's got worse. It's got way worse. And we've been doing this program for 16 years. But I have to tell you, 16 years ago, they weren't looking for as much money as they are now. It's sad. It's sad, the pressure that the witness organization is putting on Joe Smo Witness. It's just too much. It's hard for these witnesses to keep up with all this money. Now, years ago, back in 2016, I believe it was, we started seeing Kingdom Halls being taken over by the Watchtower. Excuse me one second. So we started seeing Kingdom Halls being taken over by the Watchtower, and they are mercilessly brutal. Yeah, they use all kinds of tactics, stealth tactics, to really get as much money as they possibly can, even, as we say, by taking Kingdom Halls over and selling them. Now, you guys might remember the Menlo Park scandal. Well, Menlo Park is in California. That is the home of Facebook. It's a really upscale community. I mean, the real estate is expensive as can be. And now we remember the Menlo Park situation. The Watchtower organization came in and they wanted to take the Kingdom Hall over. And they wanted to own it. They wanted the Kingdom Hall to be turned over to the Watchtower so they could sell it and make millions of dollars. The property was almost worth millions. I'm not sure how much, but it was in the millions, probably $4, $5, $6, $7 million. So a bunch of the elders in Menlo Park, they were wondering, is this really good that the Watchtower is doing this? And it was actually bothering their conscience. And it's also right now bothering the conscience of many elders too, in view of the new flock elders' responsibility to put more pressure on collecting money. They're weaseling money out of the rank and file. And you guys probably remember that Menlo Park. And it really was something else. So I'll tell you what it was. I'll read you a little clip here about it. Actually goes back to 2010. I thought it was 2016, but 2010. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York seized control of millions of dollars of prime real estate belonging to the Menlo Park Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses in California by forcibly removing the body of elders and dispersing the congregation. The elders in Menlo Park originally didn't want to give the hall up. They said, look it, our people here, our rank and file, our publishers, they worked hard to save this money up and to let us build a beautiful Kingdom Hall on this beautiful land. So they didn't want to give it up, but Watchtower came in, strong-armed the elders, disfellowshipped those that weren't going along with it, took the Kingdom Hall over and sold it. I mean, that is pretty brutal. They manipulated these, in fact, so the elders sued the Watchtower still, and they didn't win. Let's go with that. They did not win. But they brought up allegations of corruption, collusion, bank fraud, money laundering, and everything you could throw at the organization. But they did not prevail. The Watchtower took the land over and made millions on it. But I'm just trying to give you an idea how fraudulent the Watchtower is and what they do. We got some people coming in here that did someone want to speak up? Go ahead. Area code 626. Did you want to speak up? I'm going to mute you if you're not. Okay.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick. Let me just take a little disagreement with you on the $10, the target price. I say Watchtower should be asking for $100 a publisher. But this is the problem. They produce no value for the money. In your business, you would get in debt for $100,000 to buy machinery because your customers want the value that machinery will give you. Watchtower can't even get $3. Watchtower can't even get $2 because they produce no value. So the problem with the target price, in my opinion, is not that $10 is a lot. They're not even worth $10. And that's how sad of the situation they are. They are a 100-year-old religion, and they produce no value that you should be able to give them any money. That's a crying shame.
Of course, it's a crying shame. You get nothing for your money. I mean, you like to buy things, right? You like to go to a nice restaurant, and if you go out and you get a really good meal, Gilbert, you're happy. You don't mind paying for it. Or you buy a nice car, and it's a beautiful car. You say, fine, I'll make the payments. But if you get nothing for your money, you don't like making the payments. And good point. You're getting nothing for your money when you give the money to the Watchtower. I'll tell you that.
Well, I hope I made you look good because that's the job of the caller, to make the host of this show look great.
Well, thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Well, there you go. Well, I hope I mean, you guys like Gilbert. I like him too. But you guys remember the RBC? Just roll the clocks back a few years ago. Regional Building Committee. That's what the Watchtower used to call it when they would build a Kingdom Hall. Regional Building Committee. They had certain brothers, elders that were on this committee, and they would make decisions on how they're going to build Kingdom Halls in the area. Now they changed it, but we talked about that a few years ago. They changed it from RBC to LDC. So you say, well, what is the LDC? Well, it's a local design construction department. Now, here's this is the misnomer. So one time it was Regional Building Committee. And, so that's kind of regional. So now they say, well, we're going to make it the local design construction department. So it sounds like, this is wonderful. They're letting the local yokels decide on what to do. Well, not so fast. They just named it that. But what it means is the LDC construction department is working under the auspices of the branch. It's not under the auspices of a region or a district. It's under the branch, in this case, the U.S. branch. So what they did here in this LDC construction department of the Watchtower is they were making it easier for the Watchtower LDC elders to come in and grab a hold of the Kingdom Hall and their expenses. For example, let me give you an example. One time I can remember when I was in the Watchtower, I was the servant. I was working with the books. I was working with territory. And at one time, what you had to do in the Watchtower is, you would take the money that was brought in through the contribution boxes and you had your own bank account. And sometimes our bank account would go as high as, $12,000, $15,000. We were in a pretty good congregation. But the Watchtower started to sniff this money out. They're going, hey, that congregation has 15 grand in the bank. We'd like to get our hands on it. So a few years ago, what the Watchtower did is they came up with this cockamamie understanding that you can send the money to us. You don't need to have $15,000 in the bank. So they wanted you to have a small amount in your bank account locally and send the rest to the Watchtower. So this was going on, and most congregations didn't have a problem with it. But some of these congregations, I'm going to tell you, they had a good chunk of change. Some of these congregations were saving money to build a new Kingdom Hall. Some of the congregations had $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in their accounts. And so now the Watchtower comes in and says, we'll take the money, but if you ever get in a squeeze play, we could more than likely give it back to you. Oh, yeah, good luck on that one. But what they did is they took the money and they left these congregations with just a stipend amount in the bank, just enough to, pay the fuel bill, enough to buy some cleaning supplies. And then anything that was of major consequence, like a roof, or maybe you needed to do some hot topping on the parking lot, and it was going to be somewhat expensive. You had to ask the LDC construction department if you could do that, and they would tell you whether you can spend the money or not. So that's what's been going on. And now what the Watchtower is doing, they keep upping the ante. They keep finding new ways to grab more money. So now what they're doing, the new twist, is they're looking for a head tax per publisher, as I was just mentioning. And they're looking for each publisher to give so much money. But, I think of this, all I can think of when I think of the Watchtower with their hands out, all I can think of is if you got to go way back to Charles Taze Russell. And in the Watchtower of 1879, August 1879, Russell said, when he who says all the gold and silver of the mountains are mine fails to provide necessary funds, we will understand it to be time to suspend the publications. So what he was saying here, when Jehovah, who says all the gold and silver of the mountains are mine, and when he fails to provide necessary funds, we'll suspend the publications. Well, maybe Russell wasn't too far off. They are suspending a lot of publications, right? They're now in the real estate business. So maybe he wasn't too far off. But, the Watchtower has been doing this and trying to grab as much as they can. And don't you think for 1 second that there aren't elders out there that are wondering about this. Not all elders are going along with this. And back about 10 years ago, we had some people on from Bonham, Texas. And we had the elder, his name was Tony. And he came on the 6 screens. And it was a similar thing like they did in Menlo Park. They came in, they strong-armed the elders. They wanted the Kingdom Hall. The elders said, no, we don't want to give you the hall. Our friends here paid for this. And, it's their hall. But the Watchtower strong-armed them. The Bonham, Texas congregation took them to court. They dragged it on, and they never did get ownership. But the Watchtower won that one, too. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed. The flock is being fleeced. And I know there's elders listening into this program. They're not going along with this. They're not saying, well, geez, Rick, this is wonderful what the Watchtower is doing. There's a lot of elders that are on the fence, and they are PIMQs. They're questioning right now. Is this fair what the Watchtower is doing? Hey, how much can you really push a person before things start not working out for you? That's what's going on with the Watchtower. Who'd like to speak up? We do have some callers coming in. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
We got.
A leopard doesn't.
Hold on, Dick. Dick, we got a caller before you. Hold on 1 second. We got 626. Yeah. Come on in, 626.
Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, going to what you were saying about Russell, about how this may be a sign, a time for them to stop doing what they're doing. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this religion eventually just goes online, because at this point in time, I think that's necessary for the religion to stay alive, especially considering the whole issue that they've been having with all this bad publicity regarding child molesters. Now householders are going to be saying, okay, given what we know about your policies, how can we trust that this guy preaching to us at the door isn't a child molester who's looking at my son or my daughter that way? So I think in the long run, Watchtower probably will suspend doing magazines and just become strictly an online religion. I think that's the only way it survives at this point.
Well, I agree with you, brother. I really do. I in fact, that's where a lot of people have been saying this is all going to happen. And that's one reason why they're trying to build that big media center up in New York, is to be an online religion, get people to pay for services or however they're going to do it. But you're hitting a nail on the head. Their old model is not working. It's dead. It's dead in the water.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out about this media center, if we're really that close to the end as they keep insisting, like what purpose is this going to serve? Like, why would you need something like that to teach newly resurrected people during the 1,000-year reign? Like, why wouldn't the scriptures alone be sufficient, especially if there's going to be no distractions? You don't have to worry about getting up to go to work. You don't have to deal with influence from other religions or things like that. Like, to me, this media center tells me that they're not as confident as they say they are, that we're that close to Armageddon.
Well, you got a good point with that. I mean, why? Well, we're going to talk about that media center in a little bit, but that's one of the points that we were going to bring up tonight as well. I mean, so close to Armageddon. What are they thinking? What are they thinking? Yes. Well, thank you.
Like I said, to me, it's a sign that eventually, maybe within the next 5 years, certainly before the end of this decade, they're probably going to be almost exclusively online.
It appears that way. It really does. That's where they want to be, because the old model, as I say, is not working for them. It's not. Well, thank you for chiming in. I think you knew. Have you been on before?
No, this is my first time, actually.
Well, can we put a name on you?
You can call me Rick.
Okay, fine. That's a good name. I'll take Rick. Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for calling in, Rick. All right. Okay, let's go with, I think we got Dick Borgie on the line. Go ahead, Dick.
Well, you can call me Rick.
Yeah.
Just a quick thought, Rick. You alluded to the fact that some congregations would have, $15,000 to $20,000 in the bank account, and the Watchtower wanted it. And if they needed a new roof or something, the Watchtower would either give a green light or a red light on it. Most of the time, they would try to hold the money. About 20 years ago, they had a letter written to the elders, and the elders were supposed to tell the congregation, anyone who can lend money to the Watchtower, because of a cash flow problem or something like that, that if they needed the money back, there's all I had to do is write the Watchtower. So those brothers, maybe $5,000 or $6,000 they sent to the Watchtower, figuring they can use it. But if they needed it for something, they would write the Watchtower, and the Watchtower would write them back a letter saying you should have counted the cost, and they had to fight like crazy to get their money back. So that's how the Watchtower is. It's an organization full of greed and full of perversion. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. No, we had a woman in the hall I used to go to, and she had a nice big house, and she was getting older. So she sold her house, and she says, well, the Watchtower has been good to me all my life. I'm going to give them $10,000. But she put it in the bank. She didn't give it to the Watchtower. She says, I'm going to give it to my local congregation. Because, the congregation, we needed a snow blower and we needed a furnace. So she says, I'm going to give the $10,000 to the Wilmington congregation. So she gave us the 10 grand and, of course, put it in the bank. And who do you think has that money now? The Watchtower. Jeez.
Just one other thought, Rick.
Yeah.
And I've said this on the 6 screens many, many times, but for the new ones, I was in a congregation in Drake, Massachusetts, And I donated a lot of money to that Kingdom Hall and put a lot of hours of back labor into it. And they built that hall in 72. And we had a governing body member who was one of the anointed give the dedication talk. And now that Kingdom Hall has a big crucifix on it. And that to me is like having a temple prostitute doing her services in the Holy of Holies. That's what it is to me. They're so fraudulent and so disgustingly greedy. That's right.
Well, yeah, Dick, in fact, that's a good analogy right there. As a matter of fact, it will be tantamount to the same thing. And that's exactly what the Watchtower is doing. And they keep raking the money in, friends. Now, I saw online this week, you guys might have caught it too, but they just purchased, that is the city of Saskatchewan, or actually, I'm not sure the name of the city, but it's up in, it's in the name of the city is Saskatoon. It's Saskatoon. It's in Saskatchewan, evidently. Yeah, it's in Saskatchewan. But to make a long story short, they just, that Saskatoon town, they just purchased a Kingdom Hall, and they paid $5.5 million for it. But I think it might have been a small assembly hall. It's pretty big. In the newspaper article from Canada, it's saying a Kingdom Hall, but it looks more like an assembly hall. But whatever it is, they got $5.5 million for the building, and they're not telling anybody in the town what they're going to do with it. First of all, the first thing they said, the reason why the town bought it is they're going to make some housing for the poorer people, some really inexpensive housing. And that kind of people were okay with that. But then they says they might also turn part of it into a homeless shelter. And everybody's going crazy because of that. You know how that is, because they're afraid it's going to bring the wrong people into town. But here it is, $5.5 million. Now, the thing is, there's another hall. I guess I don't know how far it is away, but the people now have to travel further. But they sold this hall off, and so many of the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're really fuming over this. And this isn't the only place. Jehovah's Witnesses are fuming all over the world, is especially in the United Kingdom right now. The United Kingdom is giving up on the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're going to be one of the first places in the world where you're not going to see any witnesses. They're really breaking away from this organization because of their greed and their money mongering. But I wanted to throw that story out because when you're talking $5.5 million, that's up in Canada. Canada's a nice place. I'd never been to Saskatchewan, but $5.5 million up there. So you could imagine it must have been a beautiful, they're saying a hall, but I'm going to go with assembly hall. It's just too big for a regular hall. So, we see this as putting a burden on many of the Jehovah's Witnesses when they sell these Kingdom Halls off. And many of the brothers and sisters now have to travel 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get to another congregation. And when you have a beautiful hall that's sold off on you, and then you have to move to a hall that's not as nice, that really hurts. Go ahead, you're on with us. What would you like to say? Go ahead. We got people lined up on the phone line here, so you've just been coming in. Go ahead, Sid. Yes, go ahead.
I'll take the other caller first.
Go ahead. All right, Ken, you go ahead with us. We got some more, but we'll go with you first. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been listening to everything with interest here. Sorry to say I was tied up, but I couldn't tune in till news time, and I didn't get the first part of it. But yeah, I've been listening to everything with interest, and I reminisce on, we talked about a lot of this stuff before. We remember many years ago, the world was coming to an end, or Armageddon was supposed to be coming here, back in the 70s, from 70 to 75 and all that. And we're just finding out now, and I don't think hardly anybody knew back then, that the Watchtower Society was buying up property and buying up property and buying up property, real estate. And some of the property that was sold several years ago and all that was the stuff that they bought up in 75. So now they're getting ready for this Armageddon again. I got a question for Watchtower Society. If you're listening, and you call in and answer it. If the world is coming to an end, you know that Armageddon is coming for a fact. Why buy up all this property? Why bother with a lot of this stuff? Well, I don't think I'll ever get an answer to that because the Armageddon doctrine is a hoax, as we know that right now. And as we listen to the news and everything like that, the Watchtower Society is finding out, of course, it's been brought out several times, that the old ways are gone and they're not working anymore. So they're trying to devise new schemes and so forth. So, but I don't think that you're going to find, I think eventually you're not going to find a lot of people that's going to want to spend like $100 a month or something like that to the Watchtower Society, unless they're extremely wealthy, unless they're looking for a tax break. But I'm hoping that they don't succeed whatever they do and so forth. But I also envision that that's not going to work that well either, because they're not going to be able to hang on to the people via the internet, so forth, like they did previously.
Well, I'm with you, Ken, and that's exactly what's going to happen. They are tanking as we speak. Thank you, Ken, for calling in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll keep listening.
Thank you. Well, friends, the governing body is in panic mode. Oh, they really are. I mean, right now, well, there's an article, I believe they're studying it this week or next week, and it has to do with, once again, not wanting to talk to apostates and not even wanting to talk to some brothers and sisters that might be on the fringe. Man, the governing body is beginning to really realize that there are people in the congregation that are physically in and mentally out. And they're starting to get rumblings of this. That would be the PMOs, right? Or even the PIMQs, as a matter of fact. So the governing body has got these articles coming out in Watchtower magazines, and they've been coming one right after the other. And the entire article can be summed up with basically a little bit here. But I mean, the whole theme of the article really is to be careful who you're talking to. As a matter of fact, people that, first of all, they start off by saying apostates. That would be most of us listening in, right? They're saying that apostates do not know whom they can trust. Jeez, I mean, that's a weird statement to come out with. I trust all of my friends. I'm an apostate, but they're telling the witnesses in the article in the Watchtower that apostates can't really trust who they talk with or who are their friends. Well, I find that I can trust my friends now that I'm out of the witness world more than I could when I was in the witness world. They're constantly saying that their conduct, that is the apostates, is geared toward commercial and political and to religious leaders. Is that us? I mean, would you say that's us? Well, I follow politics now. And I'm in business. I like to follow the business news. I guess they get that one right. And, I don't really do too much for religious leaders, but I do watch programs where I do hear them speak up. So maybe the Watchtower is right. Maybe we as apostates, maybe we are engaged in the commercial world. Well, shouldn't we be? And maybe they're thinking that we are engaging in politics. Well, shouldn't we be? And even as far as religious discussions and what have you, I like to engage in that. So, I don't know why the Watchtower is kind of saying that's wrong, because, I mean, maybe they should do that and maybe they'd have a better life. But, I mean, just being focused on one thing, and the only thing the Watchtower is focused on is the Watchtower. I mean, that's the only thing Jehovah's Witnesses focus on is the Watchtower. That's synonymous with Jehovah. But maybe if they got involved commercially, politically, and religiously and opened up their ears a little bit, their lives might be somewhat better. So this article even goes on to say that you can't even trust your own brothers. Never mind trusting apostates, but you can't even trust your own brothers. Now, that shows me the governing body is in panic mode. They know darn well that, as I said earlier, people going to the meetings and they don't believe this anymore. They're just going through the motions. They're doing it in a perfunctory way. They don't believe it all, but they know what happens if they get disfellowshipped, excuse me, if someone finds out about them. So it's all about trust. The Watchtower is becoming very suspicious. They're really not trusting anybody lately. They're not even trusting the rank and file, never mind apostates. And can you imagine even at Bethel, what they must be uncovering at Bethel? You imagine how many disgruntled Bethelites there are, and they don't know what to do? I mean, they're stuck there. What are they going to do? Many of them have no money. They have no family. So they got to kind of just suck it up, so to speak. So, but, you pick up, don't you think you can pick up? Have you ever walked into a room and felt like the third monkey on Noah's Ark? Did you ever do that? Well, that's what the governing body feels like, and many elders lately, walking into a kingdom hall. They feel like the third monkey on Noah's Ark. They know something's up, and they know they're not getting the attention they used to get. And, it's like we can all read signals. We might not be experts at body language, but, people, the congregation, the people, the publishers, they're picking up on this body language that's being displayed in the kingdom halls. People just don't have the enthusiasm. They're not commenting. People aren't coming. And you can tell if a person's happy. Well, what do you look for? Now, come on, you guys. I mean, we're not trying to be psychologists here, but what do you look for a person to be happy? Do you notice, do they walk with a spring in their step? Oh, you'd be hard-pressed to find a witness walking with a spring in their step. Geez, and also a person would stand up nice and tall and straight. Well, that shows a confident person. Now, think about it. In the Watchtower, how many confident people did you see? They're all walking around like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. They're in a zombie condition. Really, I'm not just trying to exaggerate or embellish here for the sake of the program, but I'm telling you guys, you know what I'm talking about. There's certain things you can pick up on. They say they're the happiest people on the planet. I mean, how could you not be happy being a Jehovah's Witness is what they say. I mean, how could you be happy being one? That's what I would like to ask. How could you be happy and be a Jehovah's Witness? There's so many things you can't do. So many things you can't do, including coming up in the next week or so, Thanksgiving. Yeah, well, I mean, you can't even look forward to that. Aren't you looking forward to Thanksgiving as an ex-witness? Aren't you looking forward to going out and being with your friends? Aren't you looking forward to going out and participating in friendship and eating a good meal together and celebrating Thanksgiving? Well, what in goodness name's sake is the matter with that? It gives you something to look forward to. I don't want to sit here and just rant and rave all night. I don't want to do that. I'm going to try to calm down a little bit, but I get very concerned because, when you take hope away, and that's what some of these holidays do. That's what Thanksgiving does, is it gives you hope. And when you take that away, you have no hope. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight. And, maybe we can get into a little bit more later talking about Thanksgiving and what you guys did. But we'll talk about that in a few more minutes. But I want to bring up right now, what I want to do right now is I want to talk. Something came across the internet this week that's disturbing to me. Very disturbing. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, as we know them in New York, they have now come very close. They had another meeting in Ramapo. I'm not invited. They won't let me in. I know they won't. I've tried 3 times. As a matter of fact, I'll even show you a picture. I'm going to share a picture. This is me. That's me right there. And I am in Ramapo. That was May 2021. I tried my hardest, friends. I tried my hardest to really come in and prevent the Watchtower from actually building this mega media studio. But they got a permit. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I think you'll find it very fascinating. But I tried to come in 3 times, and they never really let me speak up and tell the surrounding people who live in the area of Ramapo, all about the witnesses and how evil they are. They kept shutting me down, but that's another story. So it's all corrupt. I even say this small town of Ramapo is corrupt. And I don't mean telling you. If there's an official from Ramapo that would like to come on and debate it, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. I'm even calling some of you guys corrupt. But let me just say this. Just clear my throat here. They overcame a big hurdle. They've been trying to get the permit now for 2 years. Now, this project is humongous. It sits on over 200 acres of land. It's the building itself is 1,700,000 square feet. I just want you to think about that. Can you fathom that building? You think of you think of a big Amazon warehouse. You're looking at that size is what you're looking at. I mean, they're huge. So you got all of this square footage, and the Watchtower is going to put this mega media studio up there. And I've been going over the permits, looking at them, reading through it. And this week, they jumped another hurdle. There's one more meeting they're going to have, and then it looks like they can start breaking ground. But the Watchtower is so presumptuous. They're already, making arrangements for people to bring their travel trailers up there. They're making arrangement for workers. This is a done deal. Somebody's paying somebody off or something. So they're already making arrangements to get this thing built. And the town of Ramapo is looking like they're going to sign off on this. And the Watchtower is planning on this building taking 6 years. Yeah, that's right. 6 years to build. So the town of Ramapo has accepted the final environmental impact statement. It looks like the Watchtower is going to be able to go along with this. Now, one of the reasons why it was held up, and even when I attended the meeting on Zoom, I listened in to see what one of the reasons was, and this is what it appears to be. When the Watchtower first proposed this building site and what they wanted to do on it, they were talking about buildings being 75 foot tall. Now, in this part of New York, you don't find buildings 75 feet tall. It's in the boondocks. Let's go with that. So you've got, that's going to put more strain on the town. They're going to have fire trucks that'll reach that high. It's just an encumbrance. But the Watchtower really was trying hard to get a 75-foot building, a high building, and they were kind of questioned on that. But I guess from what I understand, originally the town of Ramapo went along with it. And then the Watchtower came in and they kind of changed the plans. The meeting I attended, they said that rather than make it 75 feet tall, they would rather build it out like longer, wider, and make it, rather than 3 stories, make it 2 stories. So the building would be wider. It would, take up more land. The town didn't like that because, that presents an environmental problem. There's water runoff, there's animals, and it would be better, they said, that you go up rather than down. So they are going to go up. So they're going along with that. But something I found very, very, I deal with building inspectors and building departments in the business that I'm in. I'm in the sign business. You guys know that. And sometimes when I have to put a sign up, a good sized sign, and dig in the ground and put beams in the ground and all of that, you have to get special permits. So I'm familiar with how building permits work. But here's the thing. The Watchtower organization is seeking something here that is not that common. It's called a conceptual development special permit. Now, what is a conceptual development special permit? Well, it is special. Let me say that. Now, what they're doing, and it looks like they're going to get this, and I have a hard time even believing that a small town like Ramapo would actually give a large organization, at least as we know it, the Watchtower, a permit, a conceptual development special permit. Let me tell you what that is. This is a permit that you would secure from the town of Ramapo, And what that would ensure, at least in this case, the Watchtower, to be able to do is fundamentally they will be able to alter the original plans without getting any approval again from the town of Ramapo. So it's like a get out of jail free card. You always have it with you. So they can always, if they want to add on to the building or change their original plans, they can do it. That's a conceptual development special permit. That is unusual. That is amazing that they're trying to pull this off. And I have to tell you, that only shows me, friends, when something's going on here. So somebody's making some money. And I believe that this project there's more into it than what we're suggesting here on the 6 screens. And many people are suggesting. First of all, let me just give you a little idea how huge this facility is. There's more stats here that I'm coming up with as I go deep into the schematics of this building. Just to give you an idea, it's a behemoth. It's taking up a lot of land. As I said, over 200 acres. But just to put it into perspective, they're making accommodations, applying for at least a permit for residential staff to include 645 residential units. These are apartments, 645 apartments. Now, let me just ask you this. Where you live, you see apartment buildings around, but I'll guarantee you, unless you're living in New York City somewhere, you have never seen 645 residential units. Now, there's going to be 545 one-bedroom and 100 studio units for up to 1,240 residents, all of whom would be working at the site. Dining, assembly spaces, recreational spaces, wellness and fitness facilities, and even a clinic. But it gets even worse. I mean, this is a community. This is huge. So now what I come up with is, of course, they're saying that there be no children on the site, there be no school-age children. So, that always concerns a town, because that means more teachers, more schooling. So they're assuring Ramapo that there be no children. It's just people who will be working in this mega movie studio. Unbelievable. But let me just say here that this caught my attention. I'm reading more stats here on the building itself. So what we have here is a number of structures on this site, and there's an area of about 3,000 square feet where they're adding an on-site car wash. Well, excuse me, an on-site car wash. Now, does the Watchtower really need a car wash? I mean, think about it. Do you know how much it is to wash a car these days? I had mine washed the other day. It cost me $29. Really? It's not cheap to wash your car anymore. The days of getting a car wash for, $10, that's gone. I paid $29 to get a car wash. Hey, the average Jehovah's Witness, they can't pay for car washes like that. These guys are not making a lot of money, but yet they want to put a car wash at Ramapo? I mean, come on. I mean, is this crazy or what? They're going to have a visitor center. They're going to have Bible exhibits like a museum, and there's going to be a walking trail, and it's going to be unbelievably landscaped. It's going to look like Disney World. They're putting 9,467 new trees in, 26,000 new shrubs, 490,000 square foot of lawn. Friends, we're talking humongous. And the price tag, a whopping $500 million. That's $500 million. Does the Watchtower really need that? Friends, I'm doing a live streaming. right from a room in my house. And they're already live streaming, and they do a pretty good job at it. But now they want to build this huge, huge studio. We tried to stop it, but it looks like it's going to go through. And I'll tell you what, the word is getting out. The word is getting out, even in the witness world, that do we need this? It's just like overkill. It's too much. And I don't see where the Jehovah's Witnesses are really going to accept this. We have so many Jehovah's Witnesses that are in poverty, but yet they see mother making out like a bandit. You're on JW World News. If you'd like to come in and say hello to me, go ahead, hit *6. Like to hear what you have to say. What do you think? What do you think about that mega? Yeah, go ahead.
Chewy.
Yes, Chewy.
Well, you know, it sounds like they read Jim Baker's autobiography. That's what it sounds like to me. You know, they had a program with him on it. It was called The Con about 2 months ago, and my wife watched about half of it. And I think the reason why she left is because it reminded the pinky rings and the Rolexes kind of reminded her of the governing body. She didn't stand to it. She didn't like that too much. But anyway, I don't know if that's why she left. But that's what it is. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like what he did over in North and South Carolina, scamming people. Of course, he's not taking orders like he was taking orders for the rooms, but they can't do that because then they would let the cat out of the bag on that deal. But that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, they don't need all that crap to make a video. Anyway, thanks.
Well, it's a facade, Chewy. I don't want to sit here all night and beat the Watchtower up, but something's not passing the smell test. This is something else going on here that we don't have all the skinny on. There's something else. Go ahead, you're on with us. Speak up.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Bear. To get the other caller.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, Rick, they made $2 billion on the properties they sold in Brooklyn. Why can't they chip that into their media center? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I wonder about that too, Dick. It looks like we get United Kingdom. Go ahead, United Kingdom, and go ahead. You're on with us.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, it's Steve here.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, you know, spending $500 million on a media center when they can already produce pretty good movies, they can already produce their broadcasting very easily at the moment. So there's something bigger going on. Personally, I think they're going to go and they're going to have their own TV network, and they're going to start going out and asking for money off people. I think I said this last time I spoke, but I think that's the right. That to me, that's what the signs are saying. It's pointing towards something big, something like a TV network. Like that other person said, they're going to go online more, and they're going to get a TV network, and they're going to say they're a charity, and they're going to all these places to help build homes. What they're not going to tell them is it's the JW homes. And of course, they're going to start asking, you know, you can donate to this charity if you want to, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what the end game is, personally.
Well, you're absolutely right. I agree with you, Steve, 100%. Yeah, it's an end game, and it's out to make money. Well, thank you, Steve, for calling in from the UK. Appreciate it. Ken?
Yeah, Mr. Fair?
Yes, Ken, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I believe that they're up to something because just like yourself, you said it doesn't pass the smell test. I think there's something suspicious and they're up to something here, and they're up to no good, to say the least, on this center over there in Ramapo. And the way that they want it constructed and the way they're being articulate about everything, I'm just hoping that if they do succeed in getting it going and so forth, that the people are not going to support it, that they're going to back out. They're going to back out of it. And that is going to be the way to kind of put a stop to it. Of course, that's not going to be a problem because if the people are not going to support it and they don't have the money, they're just going to sell it and probably make more money than ever on it anyway. So I think that's what's going to happen down the road. It's going to fail, and they're going to turn around and sell it for a big profit. I theorize that, and well, I could be wrong, but we'll go with that for now.
Well, I'm gonna go with you, Ken. I'm with you, but you know, I took off the dusty shelves of the Six Screens library. I took off the Watchtower October 2019. Oh, I found something in there that kind of really helped me understand what is the Watchtower doing building this. Now that Watchtower October 2019. It says, stay faithful through the Great Tribulation. Now, in that article, it says that they will band together, that is Satan and his demons, to make a vicious all-out attack on Jehovah's people and the world as well, being led by the demons. And so they're going to make a vicious attack on Jehovah's Witnesses. They're saying this right in the article, and it can be somewhat unsettling to think about those possibilities when we cannot be certain of the exact details. So here they are saying that they're going to have an all-out attack, and it's going to be coming in 2019. They're saying it's coming very quick, but yet here they are building this huge. It's going to take 6 years to build it. I mean, do they read their own articles? They're telling you not to go to college because it's too close. You'll never graduate. They're saying all of these things. Don't get a career. Don't do this. Don't do that. But $500 million spent on a building. Okay, you're on with us. Go ahead. If you keep
Rick, can I make another comment here?
Yeah, what you want to do, Ken? Here's what you want to do.
I'll get the other caller first, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Rick.
Hello.
I was thinking, Rick?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking, with this big, huge media center, $500 million center, who's going to man this center? No one goes to college, so who's going to have the qualifications to run the cameras or do whatever this media center is supposed to do? Who's going to be up on computers to be able to do all that? They're not going to have, who's going to work up there? It's in the middle of nowhere. So where are they going to get the qualified people? And secondly, real estate is going to take a big hit. So why would they be investing in real estate? What they should be doing is taking their property at the farm and using that. There's mega acres out there. Why don't they build out there? They don't have to spend any money on property. And they probably have some outbuildings, something they can use as part of putting this together. It just doesn't make sense to me. Plus, if Armageddon comes and they say, well, Jehovah's going to save our building, it'll be saved. Can they really say that that's true? Are they sure? Show me the scripture that says that building's going to be saved through Armageddon. They don't have one.
Well, Susan, you should be sitting on the board of directors of the Watchtower. You could save them millions of dollars here. I mean, is anyone stopping and calculating the cost? But, when you mentioned, Susan, they're going to have to hire outside people. They're already planning on that. They don't have the technical people to work in these departments. So they're already planning on outside. In fact, I'll tell you what, they're already hiring outside contractors to do some of the work to build it. So they're looking to the world for help. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Well, I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
So if they're going to have so-called worldly people work for them, what are they going to do when people start pairing up, as couples to want to get married together, when they start bringing all those worldly people into their organization? Now what's going to happen? It's just going to be a big mess.
Well, it is going to be a big mess. You're absolutely right, Susan. Well, thank you for chiming in with us. Always good to hear from my wife. Thank you, Susan. All right. Who wants to speak up? You're on with us. We got Ken. You coming back? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Yes.
Okay, if we remember several years ago, and I've heard stories on the internet here, and we've heard stories on Sunday programs, I've heard some similar stories from different religions too, that same thing. When they teach you to read the Bible and all that, they teach the Satan, the devil doctrine, like especially Christianity. The Watchtower Society did too. Now, some of these people that were studying back there, you need to stop and reminisce how they taught you how powerful you're going to be and everything like that. And you're going to be able to just, resist the devil and he'll flee from you according to their doctrines and so forth. And you're going to be very powerful, and God's going to be on your side in the spirit and whatever it is, whatever else Christianity teaches on that. Now, after you get in there for a while and so forth, they're teaching everybody to be afraid because the old devil just may get you yet. And you just may die at Armageddon. You don't know because he's pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
And so forth. So contradiction, inconsistent in their doctrines.
All right, thank you, Ken. Listen, we got a lot of background noise going on, so if you have your phone unmuted, please put your hand over to do something. Got a lot of background noise going on in here, so please help me out here a little bit. Ken, your phone has a lot of noise coming out of it as well, so when you come on, make sure the TV's off or whatever. If you guys could do that, when you get on the phone here, make sure there's no radio or TV or YouTube playing in the background, because it just picks up when we hear it all. And the people want to hear it. They want to hear things nice and clear. So let's bear that in mind. You guys have your phones at your microphone. Treat it with respect. If you leave it unmuted and you're talking, and it's causing so much more work for me here. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining. Help me out a little bit. So when you're done talking, what you do, if you want to speak up on the 6 screens, you hit *6. And then when you're done, just hit *6 again and mute yourself. Man, see how nice and clear it is right now? See that? Doesn't that sound better without all of this noise in the background? Help me out a little bit, please. I really would appreciate it. Please remember that. If you write it down, put it on a piece of paper. *6, unmute. Done talking, hit *6 again. Man, my job, I'll tell you what, my job would be 10 times easier if you would do that for me. I don't mind you all coming in, but when you come in, hit *6. When you leave, hit *6 again. I don't know if you heard it or not, but a 74-year-old elder, he died this week. 74-year-old elder died on the job because he could not afford to retire. Now, we're hearing a lot of this, not necessarily people dying, but we're hearing a lot about Jehovah's Witness people that are having a hard time retiring. And of course, they are suggesting the Watchtower was a major culprit in creating this problem. So, this poor old elder, he was a window washer. And there's nothing wrong with being a window washer. They make good money. But man, they work hard for it. But he died of a heart attack while he was washing some windows. And 74 years old, that's my age. It's not easy climbing up there, whatever he was doing, and washing these windows. But Jehovah's Witnesses, they never were told to prepare for retirement. Now, there's a lot of people other than Jehovah's Witnesses, too, that fall through the cracks. The way the economy is, I'm not going to blame it entirely on the witnesses. Right now, with the way the economy is, a lot of people can't retire. I talked to a nurse the other day, and her and her husband have worked so hard. But because they've had some money in their 401k and they were looking for that to retire on, and they lost over 20% in the last year, they can't do it now. So she has to keep working for a couple more years. I ran into a woman the other day, went down to McDonald's to get a cup of coffee. There was she was my age. She was 70, actually, no, she was 72 years old. And, I could tell. I says, boy, you're working hard. And she brought it up. She says, I'm 72 years old. And she says, I work here full time. And she says, I have to do it to meet expenses. So a lot of people are really having a hard time in the economy, but the Jehovah's Witnesses even more so. And it's because the Jehovah's Witnesses, they never really wanted you to get a good job. You had to really scrounge around, take an oddball job. If the job you had wouldn't let you get to the conventions, you had to quit it and take another job. So you never could really climb the ladder. So many Jehovah's Witnesses have fallen through the cracks. And I can even remember the Watchtower. They really weren't even suggesting you take out any type of health insurance or life insurance. I had an uncle that was a Jehovah's Witness, and he worked hard. He had his own business, but he didn't take out life insurance because he was told by the Watchtower, why take out life insurance? Armageddon's right around the corner. Why do you need life insurance? Well, he died. And my poor aunt was left homeless, basically. She had to sell her house, really, to be able to pay off the bills. She just had enough money. This would have been in 1970. This would have been in 1972. And she just got enough money from selling her house off. I still remember how much she got, $27,000. And she said, well, this is going to last me till Armageddon. So she had enough money. She balanced it out so that she had enough money to last to 1975. That's when she thought the new world would be here. So she went through the money, and basically she landed up in pretty destitute straits. and she was a Jehovah's Witness woman. She was trying to find a mate. I don't want to beat her up too much, but I have to tell you, she was looking for mates in all the wrong places. She was going around to bar rooms and places like that of ill repute, and she was looking for a mate, anybody that could help her. And she was murdered by a man she met in a bar. So, I want to bring that up because that's what happens. That's what happens. The witnesses don't give anybody any hope at all other than, well, the new system. But geez, as far as your finances and anything else, they don't mind leaving you destitute. So we know so many people that have fallen through the cracks. All right, you run with us.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you can, Joe. Yes.
Yeah, it's Joe from Colorado. I wanted to make 2 comments. Now, the Watchtower has always used outside contractors, even when they had Brooklyn, Bethel, all the facilities there. And what's shocking to me, there was a propaganda video about 4 or 5 months ago where an individual, he was a firefighter, he quit his job. His wife quit her job so they could go to that Ramapo project. They could start being used in that capacity as volunteers. So they quit their jobs. Now, it's really shocking to me. Throughout the years, all these individuals slave for the Watchtower for a small stipend, and they're working right next to individuals, paid contractors, and some of these contractors make $80, $90 an hour. That's a slap in the face. The governing body is just slapping the rank and file in the face when they use so-called, I don't like the term worldly, non-witness contractors. They pay them good money, and yet they're putting out these videos to come to the new project or apply for Bethel. And again, that stipend is not very much. And then the last comment I want to make regarding retirement, in 1983, and this elder, I believe, went rogue, and I had just started working for the federal government, and they were matching 8% of my, if I contributed 8%, they would match 8%. And he had given the local needs, and he actually said, because even back in the 80s, it was the last of the last days, and he actually said that we are throwing our money away if we're putting into a supplementary retirement. Now, I tried to calculate what I lost. Now, I ended up, after retiring from the federal government, I ended up with a new career, and I've been contributing to a 401k. But because of that talk I believe it was 1984, because of that talk, I probably lost about $400,000.
Wow.
This is what the Watchtower does to people. Now, I have a 401k now. I have a retirement now. I'm still working. I work because I want to work. I like to work. But there are so many innocent victims from the Watchtower. Again, you got them giving these propaganda videos. Do more for the Watchtower. Give yourself to the Watchtower. Yet these people are working side by side, sometimes not even knowing that there are contractors making $80, $90 an hour. And then you got these rogue elders, and I know he was going rogue because this was in the 80s when he said, don't throw your money away. Don't put into a supplementary retirement. And like I said, the federal government was going to match 8% of what I put in. So I lost about $400,000 over an elder that went beyond the scriptures. Thank you, Rick, for your show.
Well, Joe, that's heartbreaking. And how many other witnesses did that happen to? How many witnesses did that? And they had savings, and they said, that's it. I mean, I know witnesses tried other games too. I knew a witness that actually what he did, he thought Armageddon was coming. So he went out on his credit card and he bought a car. And he told me that. He said, I bought the car and, I'm not going to have to pay this back. He says, because Armageddon's coming. Now, that's pretty foolish thinking. But he went out, he bought a car on his credit card, ran the credit card way up, and then Armageddon never came. He was thinking it was just right around the corner. And he couldn't pay, the credit card back. He went bankrupt. So, so this is foolish reasoning in the Watchtower. But Joe, I'm just thinking, I never thought of that. Yeah.
One last comment, Rick. Yeah. They've been saying Armageddon is around the corner in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If Armageddon is around the corner, it is a big and long corner. And how sad so many victims of this propaganda.
Oh, it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal, Joe. But geez, I feel bad for you, 400,000. Look at the position you'd be in today, and that would have multiplied too. If the government was putting that much money in, that would have multiplied. Geez, it'd probably be worth close to $1 million today. Look at how much, look at you could really cruise. You wouldn't have to work another day in your life. Even though you like work, you could just, kind of take it easy a little bit, Jeez, it's a shame. It's really, friends, it's sad. It's really sad what this Watchtower has done to people. That's why we do our program every Saturday night and every other Sunday, because these guys are wicked. They've hurt too many people. I think you heard.
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Oh, this is Chewy.
Yes.
Oh, y'all talking about the Armageddon being around the corner. Oh, JetX, the guy over in England, a man of color, he's a YouTuber. He had a short little video on, and he was just laughing about it. And they said around the corner, and it was a circle. It never did end. They just showed it going around and around and around because it was a circle. That's the way they do it, man. They just run around in circles. That's all they do.
Oh, they
just string it out in 5 or 7 years. Oh, it'll be here in 5 or 7 years. And that's why people don't worry about their credit cards.
No.
That's why they don't.
No.
Lloyd Evans said when him and his wife left, they were in credit card debt. Why? Because they thought the end was going to come in 5 or 7 years, so they really wasn't worried about it. Then they wake up and they found out, damn, we got to start paying these bills.
Well, but you know what? I don't even blame the witnesses for that, because, they put all their trust and hope in the organization, and they're not going to lead me in the wrong direction. And boy, I'll tell you, a lot of them have got hit hard. But no, that's sad with people giving up on their retirement plans, and how many people quit good jobs, good careers, how many people never started a business. Plenty. And, they're saying today, my God, I wish I would have stayed with that. But you can't. That's the one thing you can't get back is time. You can't get that back. The Watchtower robbed it all from us. So that's a fascinating thing. And I want to let everyone know, too. Yes.
Sorry, it's Steve here again.
Yes, Steve.
Something that Joe said earlier. It just reminded me, actually, of a talk we had back in 2007 at the beginning of the financial crisis that was coming. In fact, I think it might have been 2008. I think we were already in the crisis at the time. And the circuit overseer said, and he was one of these circuit overseers who was very, very clear, very authoritative when he spoke. He was the sort of person you listened to, very good speaker. And I remember him saying, because everybody's ears pricked up when he said it, he said the governing body feel, he said that this current financial crisis will not come to an end before the end of this system comes. And then he actually said the words, I repeat, and then he said it again. And I think you won't find that sort of comment in a Watchtower. But that's the sort of things that these people like circuit overseers and things that they used to say at the congregations, at a congregation level. I dare say it was probably said in a lot of places at the time. And that was back in beginning of 2008, just around that financial crisis. So, yeah, keeping you strung along all the way.
Well, you got that one right. Well, Steve, I have to tell you, that's the circuit. I like what you just said. Let me just back up here, because I like what you just said. Yeah, you're not going to find it in writing, but the circuit overseers were very much aware of this. They would bring these little thoughts up and it would spread around the congregation. I'm sure when people left that day after hearing that talk from the circuit overseer, did you hear him? You know, this financial crisis is with us now right till Armageddon. And people make decisions on that. People might have gone home and decided, gee, honey, do we really need to pay, $70 a month for our insurance? Do we really need to have this other second job? And gave a lot of things up. Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hey, it's me again. I had one. It's Chewy. I remember a district overseer one time at a circuit assembly. It was at a circuit assembly, and he was giving a talk and all that stuff. And he held up a pencil. He held up his pencil and put his thumbnail right on the tip of it, right on the lid. And he said, "That's where we're at. That's where we're at right now."
I heard that same talk. Yeah, I heard the same talk.
Right. That's back in the 80s. Well, heck, I'm 56 now. So anyway, must have changed pencils or something. I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Longer or something. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, Chewy, we all kind of believed it. We really did, and we made major life decisions based on what these crackpots were saying. And Jay,
I know what kind of pencil it was. It wasn't really a pencil. It was one of those things that you could refill the lid, so it's an overlapping pencil.
Well, that's probably right. But no, it's just no laughing matter, I guess. It really, really isn't. And it's sad. It's sad that not only that, even if you just take the monetary value of everything and put that on the back burner. Well, what about many people had to take crummy jobs that were really lousy. And, they could have really gone on and had a nice job and loved their job. But how do you like, washing windows when it's 30 degrees out and the water's freezing? How do you like, cleaning houses and lugging your mop and your broom in there and doing that's hard work. And some of these people could have gone on and had nice jobs and made more money and been easier. So some of them have put themselves in the grave because they had to work so hard. And really, it wasn't necessary. Many people gave up good jobs, good positions because of what these crazy nutcases had to say. Yeah, so anyways, we'll move on. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but it kind of caught my attention. Well, there was a Jehovah's Witness. He was murdered. He was murdered just a few days ago in Mexico, Chilón, Mexico. Well, he was killed with a shotgun by an intoxicated person while he was preaching. Now, I'm not going to call this religious persecution. You can call it what you want, but this person, there was two people. Let me just give you the setting here. This witness was out in service and he was walking along the river, and there were two intoxicated men. And when he approached them, I don't know what he said to them, but when he approached them, he was attacked with a shotgun. These men were in a drunken state while he was preaching. Killed him. 46-year-old Gomez Cortez. Well, he went out in service that morning, never came home. His family's pretty upset about it all, and you would be too, right? If your good husband, your brother, or whoever. I mean, it's a sad thing. I'm not making fun of it at all. But I'm just thinking, this got me thinking, first of all, is one thing I would never preach to intoxicated people. That you are asking for trouble. When people drink, they go in two different moods. One can be happy, go lucky. You've seen it. People drink, they get happy and jovial and what have you. But there's also people that get mean and rotten and ugly. So you never want to preach to an intoxicated person because you never know what's going to happen. So he was killed right there, killed right along the side of the river. And it was very unfortunate. But the point would be, I'm thinking it's pretty dangerous, especially today. In the Watchtower now is encouraging people to go back out in service. Now, I have not seen, I get on jw.org all the time. I was checking for this article today. It's not there. Why wouldn't they put this on jw.org? Why don't they tell you the witness was shot to death in the preaching work because it's dangerous. That they're the ones that are encouraging people to go out in the ministry right now, door to door. I'll tell you what, I would think twice about it if I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You guys see the news like I do, don't you? Do you watch the news? Do you see what's going on in some of these cities? My goodness, in New York City, for example, women just minding their own business, being pushed down a subway stairs. You see people getting knifed and people breaking into jewelry stores and robbing things and going to kill the owner. This is a real bad world we're living in right now. And I would not want, if I was still a witness, I would not want my wife or my children going out in service. I don't know what type of crackpots there are out there right now. The world has gone mad. And then I also read today too, that I was looking up, has there been murders in the organization while people were in service? Well, you better believe there was. Did you ever hear of El Chapo? Did you ever hear of him? Well, he's a big-time drug lord, probably the biggest ever in the history of mankind, from Mexico. And he was big time. I mean, geez, he was rolling in the money. He had all these little people under him, and he was the head kingpin. And all of a sudden, there was 4 people, 4 Jehovah's Witnesses. This is back in 2021 in Guadalajara, Mexico. 4 witnesses, 2 from America, 2 from Mexico. They went to Chapo's house to preach. Well, they never came out alive. Chapo not only murdered them, but they were raped, killed, and it was a terrible thing. But, the witnesses never heard about this. Why wasn't this on JW.org? Why do we have to bring it up here on 6 Screens JW World News? Because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it at all because they know darn well that would hinder people. I had, children that were pioneers, two beautiful daughters that were pioneers. And I used to even feel a little, this would have been back around the year 2000, around the year probably 2002, 2006, 8, 10, and through there. And they were pioneering. I wouldn't let them go out. If I had daughters today, I wouldn't let them go out and pioneer. Are you kidding me? With all the perverts and all the rapists and pedophiles and all of these goons and creeps. I mean, really, would you want to go out in service or let your kids go out? It makes me sick to think that the Watchtower is pushing people out, innocent people, to go out and really put their lives in their own hands. And it's really not fair to them. And I've even read some stories. Now, I'm going to read you something here that was very crazy. I got information from a sister that told me that she was out in service and it was in a bad area of town. There was, a lot of homeless people and drug people and what have you. And they were out in service. And all of a sudden, when her and an older sister were walking door to door, the police rushed in. A number of police cruisers with lights flashing, and they all jumped out of the car and they told the sister, they said, go, leave immediately. You got to get out of this area. Don't stay here. So, the sister immediately responded. She wanted to get back in her car and get out of there, but she was working with an older sister. And the older sister said, well, does Jehovah want us to? We have to preach to everybody. Can you imagine that? Here the cops are telling you, leave. This thing's going on here. You could get killed. And the older sister's saying, would Jehovah want us to do that? I can't believe how nutty, how brain dead the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Really, when you stop and think about it. Then I read other stories, too, of people that have vanished, like missionary couples that have vanished in out preaching work. It's not safe. It's really not safe. Hey, run with us. Would you like to talk about it? Have you had any encounters in service? You think service is safe today? What do you think? I'd like to hear from you.
Hi, Rick.
Hello, Rick.
I'll go with, hold on, Steve. I'll go with Kurt. Go ahead, Kurt.
Okay.
Hi, Rick. Thank you. Help me remember, because I don't remember. Did the Watchtower ever comment or teach that out in field service that you were protected by Jehovah?
I'm thinking they did teach that.
Well,
anyway, that's the question. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, what they said is they always would give you experiences as how God has angels watching over his people when you're out doing his work. The angels were there with you and they would protect you. Well, where were they here in these cases? No angels were there. So that's what they would always say. And they're still saying it till this day that God's angels are with you when you go door to door. Thank you, Kurt, for bringing that up. That's good. I'll go ahead, Steve from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, well, I was pretty much going to say the same thing because, when I was growing up, you used to read experiences in the day's text. This is when the day's text used to have experiences in the same publication in the 70s and early 80s, I think, and also in the Watchtower. And that you'd hear about experiences where people, had they have gone down this road or had they have done this, they would have ended up, had an accident or been killed or something or been involved in something really nasty. And you hear all of those experiences. So that gives you a full sense of security because as you're growing up, I honestly used to think that I was being protected. And, often I'd go somewhere where perhaps others wouldn't go because I thought God was going to protect me. You just said about the angels. I remember that as well. So, yeah, you hear all about this protection stuff and these examples where God's protecting people, but you don't hear these examples that you're talking about.
No, they go mute. You don't hear them, but people getting killed. It's unbelievable. When I was in Florida, and I lived there for 10 years, but I got to know a sister in the hall, and her name was Carolyn, and she was a real staunch Jehovah's Witness, and she had a twin, and they were attractive women, and when they were younger, they were really attractive, and they would go door to door in the pioneer work. And Carolyn was telling me one day she knocked on a man's door and he said, "Come in." He says, I'd like to talk about the Bible with you. So he invited her in the house. And when she got in there, all of a sudden he says, "Oh, I got you here." He was talking real sexy to her. And, y'all really good looking. And I'd like to really, do some things to you. So she didn't know what to do. I mean, put yourself in that position. She's out in service, working with her sister, and this perverted man brings her in the house, wouldn't let her out. I'd like to try to do some things. And so she says, she didn't know what to say. So she didn't want to lose her life. So she was just kind of going along with the whole plot here. She says, "Well, yeah." She says, "But you know something?" She says, "I have a twin sister, and she's even more beautiful than me. And, my twin sister would like to participate in this with us as well. So why don't you let me call her in here?" "Oh, yeah, go ahead. Open the door and call her in here." And when she opened the door, she ran out. I mean, really. So she could have been really hurt on that call with that perverted man. And that's a true story. And I hear stories like this all the time. People calling into the 6 screens. It's dangerous going out in service. Did you have anybody ever pull a gun on you? Did you? I mean, I've had people calling the program here that said they had guns pulled on them. So, why is a Watchtower? You'd think they'd be really super cautious in kind of reminding people. I mean, you want to say something? Go ahead. All right. At one time, I mean, they did come out and say it's best to work in pairs. But at one time, they would let people just work single. Single person going to the door. That's super dangerous. You don't know who's behind that door. You don't. I was out in service one day in an old broken down mobile home park in Florida. And it was a really debauched area. And I didn't even feel comfortable doing it, but they had me change from one congregation to the other. I was in a really nice congregation. It was all nice houses, and I didn't feel too bad. But up in this area of Florida, I felt kind of like, man, this isn't safe for me to be out here with my wife. So my wife and I were out there knocking on trailer doors, mobile home doors, and this one guy, he had to be 6'6", and he came to the door. He had a .357 Magnum, and he's pointing it at me. He says, "You see this gun?" And I thought he was going to shoot me. I mean, he scared the living. Well, he scared me. Let's put it that way to you. And he said, and he said, but I could tell the man was deranged. I could tell he was deranged just the way he was talking. So I tried to calm him down a little bit. I said, sir, I says, you're pretty good with that gun. He says, oh, I'm good with it. I'm very good. I don't know what his intentions were, but I know a 357 Magnum when I saw it. And he says, I'm a really good shot. I says, sir, I was just trying to make light of it all because I didn't know what to do. I was afraid to like back off. He might shoot me on the way out in the driveway. So I tried to talk to him in a calm way. I says, sir, I says, what's your name? He says, well, my name is Slim. My name is Slim. That's what he told me. I said, well, Slim, I says, my goodness, I'm glad that you are a good shooter. And obviously that keeps you occupied. But I says, you always carry a gun? He says, I've been carrying a gun for years. He says, I carried a gun for years. He says, I'm an angry man. I'm a very angry man. What are you going to do when a guy starts saying things like this to you? And he's holding a 357 Magnum. I mean, right. So then he says, well, he says, I'm an angry man. So, I mean, I'm trying to make a conversation with him because I don't know what he's going to do with the gun. My wife is scared to death. So he says to me, well, he says, I'm angry. I says, why are you angry, Slim? Tell me why you're angry. He says, well, when I was a young boy, he says, I was only 17 years old and I went to work for this man and he was as mean as could be. And one day what happened, because I didn't do the job right, he took out a rubber hose and he beat me with it. And he beat me to a pulp. And he says, till this day, I never forgot about it. But he says, I carry this gun and feeling that it's going to help me if anger ever comes into my life. And I mean, this made me nervous, but he backed off. And I said, well, that's nice, Slim. And we get out of there. But he was a deranged man. Now, you guys probably ran into deranged people out there too. Did you? Do you have any stories you can share with the Six Screens audience tonight on what might have happened to you when you were in field service? Well, let's open up the lines. Anything at all happened that was strange? You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Rick.
Okay, we get to, who's this? Go ahead.
This is Donna D.
I'm sorry, Donna who? Oh, okay, I get you.
Donna D.
I get you, Donna. Yeah, I get you now. Yep.
So I was out in service, and another sister was with me. And whenever when the man opened the door, the sister could not see him, but I could, and he was completely naked. And I was vacation pioneering that month, so I had my thing that I was saying, I had it down pat. So I just looked him straight in the eye and went on with my presentation. And he grabbed my arm and tried to pull me in the house. And when he did, the sister saw that he was naked and she pulled me and we left. I had to go home. It upset me for the rest of the day.
I mean, you didn't even get to go to coffee break.
Oh, I was young. I don't think I was even married. I may have been married, but I don't think that I was. I was just a youth.
Well, Donna,
that's
a terrible thing. I've heard of plenty of naked people in service like that. All these perverted people, naked women and naked men both. Yeah, that's unreal. Yeah. Thank you, Donna, for sharing that. I think we had Susan on there too. Go ahead, Susan. Did Susan have something to say? Yeah.
Oh, I had to unmute myself.
Okay.
I was thinking, if anyone is still attending the Kingdom Hall, and if you have young children or teenagers that are out in the ministry, I wouldn't send them alone, please. I had a kind of a similar situation where I was supposed to have a return visit with this young man, and he couldn't see me until after work. So I was trying really hard to get a brother or an elder to be with me on this call because I just didn't want to go alone. And I had to basically beg, borrow, and steal to get an elder to come with me. And when I got to the man's home, he had candles on the table and dinner waiting for me. I couldn't believe it. And I was young then. But see, if I would have been older, I might have picked up on that and not have made arrangements to come back and maybe just have a brother go back and see him. But I was so interested in finding someone that wanted to study so-called study the Bible with me. He didn't want to study the Bible with me at all. So
He wanted to have he wanted to have a romantic dinner with you.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I don't know what else he was planning, but see, I was young. I was in my 20s then. Didn't pick up on it. And so, parents, if you have young kids who are pioneering, you better start educating them, or just not let them go out alone, or at least with people that might be old enough to pick out on something like that, because it's much more dangerous now. You just look at how people are, robbing stores, smash and grab, and getting beat up in the sidewalks in the bigger cities. You might not see it in the small areas, but in the bigger cities it's happening. And, people robbing stores. You wouldn't even want to be there when something like that happens. So our kids are precious to us. So we really got to watch out for them, and you got to be careful.
Well, Susan, that's well said, and I'd say the same thing. Watch those kids. Don't let your kids go out in service. And really, you don't know perverts. They're out there. They're all over the place. So be careful out in service. Okay, run with us. Someone else want to say something? You run with us. Go ahead. All right. Well, I tell you, friends, I'm not sitting here bloviating. I'm telling you the God's honest truth. It's a dangerous world we're living in. And there's
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Dan. Yeah, I would think too now you'd have to worry about the Jehovah's Witnesses, when you went out in service. With all the pedophiles they're finding, and, the old brother, wanting to get that young brother, that 20-year-old brother. I mean, I wonder if they have any kind of warnings now, like in the congregation. I mean, it sounds crazy, but do you think the Watchtower is saying, hey, when you go out with brother so-and-so, if you notice any, if he wants to get along with you, he wants to do this. I mean, what we've realized, Rick, is a lot of I would say all of them, but a large percentage of the organizations are, open spaces for pedophile rings. So when we were in there, we never thought about Jehovah's people, being, any kind of, bad. Like you said, we're talking about going door to door and meeting weird people. But I would think, man, it would be so easy. I mean, I know a lot of people that went over to brothers' houses, and brothers took all the sisters over and played them piano, bought them dinner. There were some brothers who were playboys, and they entertained a lot of the wives, women that were married in field service. But can you imagine, Rick, with the sex addiction in there and the pedophilia, the sisters, having to work, with the brothers, out of work. And I mean, it's an environment for trouble. And I got to tell you, I did have one time where I had a real weird one when I went to the door. I went to the door. The guy let us in. It was me and a pioneer sister. And he opened the door and he shut it. And he locked it, which I wasn't worried about. But when he locked it, there was a gun behind the door. He didn't pull it on us. But what he said was, he sat us down, and he was a military man. And he said, what pissed me off the other day? And we said, what? He said, I mean, really pissed me off. And I said, what? And he said, there were some people at the game the other day that didn't stand up for the national anthem. Could you imagine, Rick? I felt like the Tin Man, shaking in my boots. Like, is he going to just blow us all over? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting there looking at the gun. He goes, that really pissed me off. Can you imagine the gall of some bitches, going to, not standing up. And all I could think of was, did he see me,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's crazy, Rick. It's crazy.
Well, you brought up something, Dan. Now, I get the Watchtower announcements that they read to the congregation. And these are all the announcements the elders get. They look over and read. And I've been doing that now for about 3 years. But never have I found in the last 3 years any announcements to be read to the congregations about, be careful in field service. Make sure you're working in pairs. Be cognizant of who's around you. Be careful. None of that. I haven't read anything about that. But you brought up another thing just a couple of seconds ago that also gets me concerned. The biggest danger might be in the car group with some of these pedophile witnesses. Yes.
That's what I'm thinking, Rick, because, and think about it. why wouldn't the Watchtower have a consciousness to protect? They sound all good at times, you know, but why wouldn't they make an announcement? This is front page news everywhere. You know, pedophiles found out, men killed, this big pedophile ring that happened up Pennsylvania. Why wouldn't that be in the forefront of an actual talk they give at an assembly? Dear ones, we found out that even within Jehovah's organization, sadly to say, there's this type of activity. So we want you to be I mean, it'd be cutting their own throat, but it would also wouldn't that be the loving thing to do? To say an announcement like that, be careful, brothers and sisters. We love you. We know we're doing this all important work, but sadly to say, but they won't say it. They won't say it, Rick, because they don't really care. You know what I mean? They just care about their objective, which is to bring people in, you know, to make people Watchtower slaves, to bring them into that idea.
Well, that's exactly right. Dan, you nailed it. In fact, we had Dr. Jerry Bergman. I've told this story before. Dr. Jerry Bergman, who was a psychologist for the Watchtower, and he dealt with the Watchtower on a lot of psychological areas. And he wrote a book, Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem with Mental Illness. And he came on our program years ago. And I remember even questioning him on this. There was a convention with 3 little babies. 3 little babies died. It was hot. It was in the summer. And they were in carriages. And the mother had little blankets on the babies. And they got so hot, they died. And, you know, Dr. Jerry Bergman, he said, you know, we should make an announcement. He went to the administration. He said, can we make an announcement that mothers don't put blankets on the babies? It's too hot. And they said, no, we don't make announcements like that from our stage. Can you imagine that? But see, that's how cold and callous these people are. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
same thing happens in the Mormon church. There was a kid here who blew his brains out. We were working for the homeowner. We were going to go in and refinish the kitchen. And we went in there and they put us off for 2 days. And they were in there cutting drywall, painting, you know, all this with a smile on their face. And it wasn't that they were smiling. Rick, it wasn't that they were smiling that some kid killed himself. They were just putting on a facade to people. And I'm like, was there something that happened here? Oh yeah, the kid blew his brains out. We're like, what? It wasn't on the front page of the news. These religions, Rick, they do a hell of a job at covering up. I mean, I just think of this too. I was thinking about you saying that, you know, them going forward with Ramapo and all this stuff back east, and how would you say it? How callous, how unconscious to continue with your plan, despite the millions of people that did put their life on hold. And I know there's people out there that say, well, you know, they should have known better. You know, they should have put away money anyway. No. When it's plastered across your paper, when it's been proven by Scripture says this generation will by no means pass away. That means food shortages, earthquakes, you know, all this stuff, right? You know, it's going to have the Great Tribulation was included in the beginning of pangs of distress, nationwide food shortages, and then there was going to be the Great Tribulation. So you couldn't deny it. It was in the Bible. It was spelled out for you. Here it is. There's the earthquakes. There's the food pestilence. There's the this. And then it doesn't happen. And Watchtower just acts like nothing at all happened. I mean, Rick, this is the beginning of insanity. This is the beginning of insanity when you deny reality. When you deny reality, when you say that something happened, when you read in the Bible, this is going to happen, Watchtower says it's going to happen, and then it passes by, and Watchtower says, what? What happened? What did we say? We didn't say that. No, that didn't happen. What are you talking about? That is the beginning of insanity.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's exactly what they do all the time, Dan. No wonder why people are walking around like zombies. They don't know what to do. The Watchtower does all the thinking for them. Yes.
Yes, and Rick, think about this. You're a house divided against your own self. We have an inner GPS for bullshit.
You know, when the crypto crashed, you know, you imagine somebody say, well, it didn't crash. Well, I just lost $1 million. Well, it didn't crash. You see, that's the kind of stuff that makes you go batty. And it's true, Rick. I'm sorry. My mother and father were a product of the mental illness within that organization. And you can't water it down any way. It was pure bullshit. And Watchtower didn't own it, Rick. Watchtower did not own their bullshit that they spewed out. They spewed out all this bullshit, all this propaganda.
Hang on,
this is
Randy.
the time. This is the this. Go ahead, Rick.
In fact, hold
Anyway,
on.
go ahead.
Well, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I got a call coming through from Randy Waters. Of course, he had a website years ago. Randy, can you, in fact, can you stay on here with us, Dan? I just want to make sure. Randy, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, Randy. This is Randy Waters, folks. He had a program. He had a website called Free Minds. You might remember that. Go ahead, Randy. What do you want to say?
Are you doing a conference or something?
Yeah, well, no, this is the radio program. Yeah, did you want to listen in tonight?
Okay, no, I'm still haven't got to the doctor over my diabetes.
All right.
Things.
Well, I'll give you a call tomorrow. We'll try to get you on, okay? But why don't you listen in tonight? We got Barbara Anderson coming on in a short while. So why don't you do that? I sent you some information. Look in your email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's Randy Waters. That's Randy Waters. We know Randy, and he of course he's one of the ones that got me out of the organization. He had a website called freeminds.org, and so he's been contacting me. We're going to have him coming up soon on the 6th screen, so we're looking forward to that. So, anyways, Dan, I'm sorry, but go ahead. Let's go back to Dan. Dan, what else do you want to say?
Yeah, that was it, Rick. I just wanted to bring out that is a large reason for the mental illness, schizophrenia. And you know what? I want to say this. The people that say no, I'm just going to tell them bullshit. I got to see it like that, Rick. If you're saying no, if somebody tells you, if you know something is wrong, and Watchtower says it never happened, you know, like 75, the generation prophecy, the overlapping, that's what happened to me. I had a crisis of conscience over the generation prophecy. I went in to ask them. They looked like freaking deers in a headlight. Two elders. They looked at each other like, what's he doing? What's he doing? I'm like, I'm asking a fucking question is all I'm doing. I've been preaching my ass off out here, talking about the generation prophecy, talking about 70 or 80 years from 1914, the end's going to come, you know, when you see this. And Rick, they looked at me like a deer in the headlights.
Oh, yeah.
Like a deer in the headlights, two elders. And I'm like, are you guys mentally ill? Like, Bill, you're my buddy, man. We go out and have a jack every now and then. We lay down some carpet. We go have a pizza and a jack. What the hell's wrong with you? You know what was wrong with him? He's mentally ill because he's denied that reality so many times. How could you deny it in 75? 75, 6,000 years the world began. It's going to end. Daniel, you know, Zechariah, you know, all this Bible scripture. It was in the Paradise book. It was in the Revelation book. They threw them in the trash, and Watchtower turned their back on us and said it didn't happen. My uncle, he's a Bethelite, at my mom's funeral. I said, what about all the prophecies? What prophecies, he says? I said, the prophecies, the generation, the 75, the generation, the overlapping, and whatever else they can make up. What happened to those? It's the same prophecy. What are you talking about, Dan? That's mental illness. That's mental illness. And I've seen it with my own eyes. And you know what? I chose, and I said, no, you will not lie to me. You will not lie to me. I'm not going to believe your bullshit. I'm going to believe what I know to be true. This is false. It's proved to be false. I don't have to say it's false. Go and look online. Look up the Watchtower. Look up the Awake. It's false. Honor yourself. Love yourself enough to say this is false. And you know what? If it's false, it's because it's a devil. It's a lie. It's been a lie. It's proven a lie. Beyond all doubt, Watchtower is a lie. And they're still lying. And that's why people are pissed. People are watching them build these mega shit, you know, theaters, trying to get more people, cater to the masses, dine with the classes, meaning the more people you get in front of, the more people you got coming in. They're following suit, just like Babylon the Great. And the people are still denying the reality that they've been bullshitted, and they're still being bullshitted. Anyway, Rick,
That's what I wanted to say.
Well, you got passion. The people love you here on YouTube, Dan.
Thank you.
And no doubt about it that they are mental. I mean, if you can continue to stay in an organization that continues to lie to you, never has improved your life one bit, nothing they ever said has come true. It's time to pack your bags. And if you're staying in there, your level of mentality is about a fifth grader, about 11 years old. That's the only one that's going to be left.
Yep. Could I say one more thing, Rick?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
They're good. They're going to use them up. See, what's happening is because of these shows like yours, because people are talking and never going to stop talking, what's happening is people are waking up. So I believe this project, if they get it off the ground, should they get it off? I don't know that they will, but should they get it off the ground, it's probably going to be their last one, because they've got to use the slaves right now. They've got people under mind control. They've got a few left. You know, I say a few, there's probably millions, but they've got some left. They're putting them to work. Why not put them to work on building projects? Even if the economy does drop, and real estate goes down, for the most part, a lot of the labor isn't expensive. It's really cheap labor and a lot of voluntary work, tons of it. So it'll still be an investment property regardless. It'll still be an Ivy League college. That's what I'm thinking. It would make a perfect Harvard or something like that college, because it's so private and it'll be so beautiful. But anyway, Rick, yeah, to me, they're on their last leg. And I believe this media center is their last hope. The preaching work's done, Rick. Look at these guys with the carts. They're out there on their cell phones, sitting on their ass, you know, with a shopping cart, you know, next to one of those little carts. They're not doing nothing. Nobody's preaching anymore. Everything is vested on this media center, Rick. Everything is 100% bets are on the media center.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
Preaching work's gone.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's their last stand. That they have to pull this off, or they're cooked. And even then, they're going to be cooked. I mean, they're tarnished. You can't. You know, if you keep putting out a bad product, eventually people start talking about it. The Watchtower is putting out a bad product, and people are talking about it. So even if they build this mega media center, the product's still going to be crap. So let's see what happens. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. That's Dan. He's got the program on Life After Religion, and you might want to check that out. Check out Life After Religion on YouTube. That's our good friend, Dan Clark. We really appreciate him coming in. Yes, go ahead.
Can I do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is Constance. I just wanted to just say briefly, in reference to what you were talking about before Dan got on, which is always an excellent comment from Dan. I love when he gets on the air. But, you know, talking about going door to door and the pedophiles and all the perverts that are out there in the community, I was going to say one of the largest pedophiles in Watchtower, his name was Frederick McLean, and he was down in Southern California. He actually had been on America's Most Wanted show, which was very interesting. And how it all started off is he was in the organization. He was baptized, he and his wife, and they had a couple of children. And he and his wife were very close friends, of course, with another couple in the congregation that had children. And this is my point. The point is that it was the sleepovers. You know, the couple that had the two little girls, they trusted the McLeans. And they said, oh, Daddy, you know, Mommy, wait, there's a little sleepover at, you know, the McLean house. You know, is it okay? Can we go over there with, you know, Susie and Barbara? Oh, sure, that's fine. And these pedophiles, even in the organization, what they do is they groom not only the children, but they groom other JWs of building their trust. And once the parents trust someone else in the organization, it's like, oh, sure, that's fine. Going over, you know, Friday, Saturday night for a sleepover, you're safe. Well, he molested the two little girls. And anyway, it was very interesting. He ended up being on the show America's Most Wanted by, what was his name? John Adams or something, you know, the one that had his little boy that was murdered at the age of 5. And anyway, that was the name of the show, America's Most Wanted. And anyway, this J.W. McLean had been on the run. And I actually even put it, Rick, on my phone. And it said, if you ever see this guy, because, he left California, but he was going up like Oregon and up to Washington. And he loved hot rods. That's one thing he did. He loved hot rods. He loved to rebuild cars. And, he'd pop into, another Kingdom Hall and start visiting with, the congregation of the brothers and sisters there and so forth. And he loved to camp. And they said, if you ever find him, call this number. And I had it on my phone. Anyway, he just recently died, within the last year. And it was very interesting, Rick, because, makes you wonder how many children, how many JW children and maybe even, children that were not JWs, but we're talking about JW kids and families. How many of them did he sexually abuse? He ran for years getting away from the authorities. So what is my point? My point is for JWs that are listening or people that are PMOs, we all love our kids, okay? And you've got to really be very careful, even inside the organization, when it comes to sleepover, okay? And that's my point. I'm not saying you can't trust brothers and sisters. You just have to be extremely vigilant and very much alert, because that's how these pedophiles operate. Once they got your trust, then you can do a lot of damage to your children for me. So thank you.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Constance. Very good comment. Yeah, no, I remember seeing that on America's Most Wanted. John Walsh was the man's name. And it was a great program, and that really exposed many people to this man who was a Jehovah's Witness, who was a pedophile. Well, we've got so many good things happening tonight. We've got Barbara Anderson. She's going to be coming up here at 9:30, about a half hour from now. And wait till you hear what she has to say. I've been in contact with Barbara, and, she says, Rick, I've always been divulging information about child molestation and sexual abuse. She says, but I want to talk about other things. She says, there's so many things I came across when I was working at the Watchtower that she wants people to know. She wants to put her footprints here on the 6 screens. She wants people to know her real story. It's not just about child sex abuse, but she's going to be talking tonight about a man by the name of Richard Wheelock. And Richard Wheelock jumped out of the 3rd-story building at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, and he fell to his death. He committed suicide. And she's going to come on tonight and talk about that. He was the press supervisor at the Watchtower, and she knew him pretty well. And she has inside story tonight on why Richard Wheelock jumped out of the 3rd-story building at the Watchtower. She also is going to talk about how evil and how bad President Noor was of the Watchtower, and how he actually was aware of aware of wife swapping at the Watchtower World Headquarters, and never said a thing. She's going to share these with us tonight. She's coming on live tonight at 9:30. You don't want to miss it. So stay with us, because you're going to really hear things that are going to shock you. Well, that's Barbara. All right. Anyways, let's move on here. Someone want to say something? Go ahead. You're on with us. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We got a couple of people talking at once.
Okay. I'm out here in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, go ahead.
And talking about field service and the dangers of it. One time at our book study, can you imagine our book study? A guy came in with a gun, and he started shooting it up at the book study because our book study conductor was having an affair with his wife. And so the man came in there for, to shoot up for revenge. And everybody was running and jumping on the floor, and the guy shot the book study conductor and shot him in the shoulder, and then someone called the police, and it was a big old mess, and that book study conductor he got reproved, and
it was just the talk of the congregation.
Well, I imagine it would have been. That's a wonderful story. I mean, that was an explosive book study. I mean, you guys must have been talking about that for years. Well, thank you, brother, for sharing that from us from California. I guess we got another brother coming in. Go ahead. You with us? You're with us. Go ahead. Okay, people come in and they drop off for some reason. Let's go back to the brother in California with the book study shooting. Were you there, brother? All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm glad people come in here and share stories with us because I can't believe some of the stuff that goes on. But see, that's what happens.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I have a story.
Go ahead, Christine.
Hi, Rick. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to see you all. Nice to hear from you all tonight. I'm enjoying the program. Just a quick story. My youngest son was about 7 or 8 years old, and we were going to the Kingdom Hall, and this couple moved in. They didn't have any children with them. I'd heard that they had children somewhere else, but this couple came into our hall and started attending. They were very, very overly friendly. They were very, very friendly to everybody. They were always smiling and laughing, and they liked having people over, and they were very hospitable. And the wife was a pioneer. And then down the road a little bit, they said, "Oh, we're going to have a party for the children. We're going to have a pool party for the children, and you parents can just have a nice day, go out to dinner and have some time for yourself." They're basically inviting us to let them babysit, and a whole bunch of people left their children with them for the afternoon on Sunday, and we picked them up. Well, down the road, we didn't know, but down the road he got arrested. And I found out that what he did also in his spare time, he would go in public places and he had a camera, and he would put the camera, underneath people's skirts or the children, whatever. I don't know. Some kind of weird voyeurism, I guess. And he got caught and he got arrested. And I thought about it after that, and I went, oh my goodness, I had my son, having a pool party at his place. So who knows if he photographed all the children that day. But I suppose he was involved in selling pornography. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, be careful at the Kingdom Hall. It may not be an overnight thing. It may not be that your children are being invited for a slumber party. It may not be that the people that are inviting them have children. So I'm just letting everybody know that it could be as innocent as, a nice couple inviting the children over for an afternoon, and it could have turned out to be disastrous. But he got arrested, and I don't know the whole story after that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that for everybody to be careful. Be very careful. All right.
Hi,
Thanks,
good
Rick.
evening.
Go ahead. Thank you, Christine. Go ahead.
Am I in?
You're on. Go ahead.
Hi. So my name is Barbara, and I've never done an open discussion about my experiences being raised within the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
It was primarily through my grandmother and her seventh husband. They were both baptized. She had previously been disfellowshipped for actually practicing black witchcraft, and after some time was rebaptized. Unfortunately, with dysfunctional parents, I was sent to live with her numerous times. I had gone to the elders probably starting at the age of 6 or 7, maybe, letting them know how my grandmother would chain us in freezers, lock us in dog kennels. She raised Boston Terriers in Barnstead, New Hampshire, and they would get the plastic barrier from the wire, and she would remove that plastic barrier for her grandchildren. So we would kneel on the wire all day. We went through horrific stuff in that house. Our hands held over wood stoves, hung off of railroad-tied rafters in the attic.
And when I went to the elders as a little girl, they told me that it was blasphemous and I was bringing reproof against Jehovah and his entire congregation, and I was wicked. And it went on for a long time, but I saw right through them, even just as such a little girl, to experience such things and have no adult who preach to be so righteous listen and actually do anything besides call you wicked and a blasphemous liar. I ran away many, many times, sometimes disappearing for days and would come back to the beatings. They do absolutely nothing to protect any child within a congregation. It doesn't matter if you show up with black eyes. They will put you in the back of the congregation and have you ignored. There's nothing that they do to protect a child. It is the most wicked occult that I was ever exposed to. And I'm sitting here with the only person besides my family that knows the story. They were never supposed to be around children again, her and her husband. The state of New Hampshire finally intervened and threatened my mother to lose custody if we were ever left alone with her again. She changed her name for a third time, moved to Arizona, and adopted another little boy who I've made contact with, but it's not a subject I've broached with him. I don't know that he experienced the same things or not. I don't know how he was raised. He's much younger than I. And I don't really know how to broach that with him. I don't know what kind of childhood he experienced. But the elders, when I reached out, I called every congregation until I found the congregation they were at in Arizona. And they never knew, the elders there never knew that she had 2 daughters and grandchildren and was married 7 times. It's just wicked. My whole experience was wicked and torturous. Thankfully, never can I say pedophilia was ever involved. I'm blessed to not have experienced that side. But I know that they cover the wicked doings within their own congregation. And they will take it out. They'll disfellowship children that report abuse if they won't shut up about it. They will shun you. They will do everything to destroy you.
Well, sister, I'm so sad that
I was never baptized. I was never baptized. I put up such a I was like a warrior as such a young child that I just never shut up. I just kept fighting. I think more so for my sister, because even though she was older, she just couldn't take it like I could. I had developed that thick, tough shell.
Well, good for you. You were able to put up with it. But boy, I'll tell you what, that's extremely difficult to deal with. And I thank you for sharing your feelings about it. Now, you do have a New England accent, so I believe you're still here in New England some way, right?
Yes, I am. I still live in New Hampshire.
Yeah, well, I live here in Massachusetts. I could pick up on the accent. But what I wanted to say, sister, you're brave for coming on and talking about that. And it's not just pedophilia that the Watchtower is involved with. They do encourage. I know so many people that were beaten like you were and tortured, actually tortured, because the parents or the grandparents were just so strict. But you doing okay today? I mean, is things working out all right for you?
I am doing wonderful. I have a career. I have 2 beautiful children. I actually just got engaged to a former indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness. And he's actually sitting here with me. We actually found out he's 10 years older than me. He's a wonderful human. We found out that we were in the same congregations many times as children, and our lives just crossed paths again. We've been together and own a house for over 5 years. he still struggles a lot, but I was able to get out and flee, so to speak, at the age of 10 or 11. 11 is the last time I saw my grandmother ever. He went through a lot in it as well. He actually studied a lot longer. I never took to it because I could just see it. As a very young girl, I saw it, and I wanted nothing to do with any of them.
Well, good.
But I am happy, and I did my work.
Well, good for you, and I'm so glad that you found it. I'll tell you what, even finding an ex-witness to be a friend and perhaps even marry is a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. I felt the same way when I left. My former wife died, and as I'm doing the program, I always wanted to find an ex-witness because they could understand. So this man you're with, he understands because he was a witness. So I think that's a wonderful thing, sister. I really do.
He really does, and we really fall on each other. For he still struggles with a lot of searching, of feeling guilt-free of leaving the congregation. But he was in it for 40 years. I was not. I only had 11. So we fall on each other, and we find strength and reason within each other. And because we shared so many similar experiences with child abuse, we have that open sympathy and compassion and understanding with each other.
Well, good for you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to. It takes a lot of courage to do that, but I thank you for calling into the program tonight. And I know that you've got many people out there that have experienced very similar things. It's not unusual, and it's unfair. You reach out to the elders, you tell them what's going on, they do nothing. They turn a deaf ear, and you got these little kids being beat up big time. Not good.
Truly, yes.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. Now, don't you be a stranger.
Thank you.
You come back here. Now, I think this is the first time you called into the Six Queens, right?
It is. I've never publicly talked about this with anybody besides him. And I'll give him a name. His name is Tom. My mother, who still kind of rejects a lot of it, but she has her own terrible story being raised by that woman. So I understand why she has a lot of denial issues. Yes, it is the first time that I've publicly, besides the state of New Hampshire, and Tom and my mom talked about it.
Well, that's a brave thing to do. Now, if you'd like to come on someday and tell your whole story, we'd love to hear that, and you can get off your shoulders. If you want to write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. jwworldnews. Yeah, write me, sister. And what we'll do is we'll get arrangements for you to come on because I like to spend more time and have you tell your whole story. I think it could help a lot of people. Would you do that for me? So go ahead and write me, okay? And let me know who you are, and I can get.
I will.
All right. And I'm a fellow New Englander too, so we kind of have some same thoughts on a lot of things here, so we can share them together.
We're 2 hours away from Boston. We're 2 hours from Boston.
So you're up there. You're pretty much up there in New Hampshire. I got relatives. I got witness relatives. They live up in Littleton area. Yeah. So you're probably up around. You're probably up around Concord or somewhere around there. Yeah. Maybe a little further. Yeah.
No, we're actually in we're Meredith.
Oh, Meredith. I know where Meredith is. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. Well, thank you, sister, for coming in. And we're going to hear more from you. I really write me and we'll get a hold of you. All right.
I will write you, I promise.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, too. I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. Thank you. Don't be strangers now. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
We definitely will.
Oh, that's good to hear.
You're doing a great thing, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it, too. I really appreciate when you guys call in. That makes the program. You guys make the program, believe me. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, there you have it. I mean, look at that. We got new ones calling in. We had 3 or 4 new people tonight. And we got Barbara Anderson coming up here in about 10, 15 minutes. So by all means, stay with us. But I wanted to bring this up. We got a lot of stories we didn't get to, but that's okay. I'd rather talk to people. I'd rather talk to that lady that just called in and her friend. That makes my day when that happens. But anyways, I wanted to bring this up It's Thanksgiving. It's right around the corner. Just a few days, it's going to be Thanksgiving. And what did your JW family do for Thanksgiving? Well, I mean, it goes in different directions. Thanksgiving, first of all, if you want to examine it, Abraham Lincoln, he was the first to declare Thanksgiving a national holiday back in 1863. And he wrote that Thanksgiving should be celebrated. Every American with the purest forms of patriotism and the deepest emotions of thankfulness for his religious enjoyments should celebrate Thanksgiving. Now, maybe the witnesses don't like the idea of patriotism being involved with it, but I mean, the witnesses have to be very thankful if they live here in America because they can enjoy religious freedom, right? And they can enjoy religious freedom without being chastised. I mean, we're chastising them here, but they can enjoy their freedom of religion. But I'm thinking, I tried to find out, why don't Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate Thanksgiving? This has always bothered me, so I tried to do some research on it. But Thanksgiving really upsets the Jehovah's Witnesses for several reasons. First, they are keenly aware that the day is rooted in ancient pre-harvest festivals. And they feel that, oh, it's like a pagan celebration. I mean, over in Europe, as well as here with the American Indians, pagan. They criticize the idea of reserving one particular day for giving thanks rather than encouraging thanks every day of the year. So that's what the witnesses do. And I remember when people would ask me, Rick, did you have a good Thanksgiving? What you do for I say, well, wait a minute. Every day is Thanksgiving for me. That's what a witness would say, even though they didn't believe it. But I did. Every day was Thanksgiving. But, there's nothing wrong with Thanksgiving. But also the witnesses put another ugly spin on Thanksgiving. They say that, well, you know what happens on Thanksgiving? People get drunk. They eat too much. They get involved in gluttony. I mean, come on, let's get real with that. But they'll use that as a reason not to celebrate Thanksgiving as well. But what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? Maybe we got time here for a few callers to come in. What are you going to do for Thanksgiving? I mean, I got a little butterball. It's just me and my wife. I got a little butterball turkey breast. It's not even like a big turkey because we wouldn't eat it all. But we're going to have a little Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm very thankful for that. So Susan and I are going to sit down and have a nice little Thanksgiving dinner together. How about you? What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Maybe you can't get into it. It's very hard when you leave the witnesses to celebrate anything. But what do you think about?
Rick?
Yes.
This seems weird because I'm from the UK and we don't do Thanksgiving in the UK.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm doing Thanksgiving for the very first time this year. The reason for that is because we've got some American friends, they're missionaries actually, not JW missionaries obviously, come from Texas, and they live over here now. They're good friends of ours, and they've invited us to Thanksgiving, so we're going to do our very first Thanksgiving.
Well, good for you, Steve. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you. I really hope it all goes well for you. All right, who else is on with us?
And to you and to everybody else.
Well, thank you. Who else is coming on? Who else is going to celebrate Thanksgiving?
Hey, Rick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Rick, this is Jesse in Yuma, Arizona.
Yes, Jesse.
Yeah, Gilbert, my little brother's coming over for Thanksgiving to be with our family, the non-Jehovah's Witness side of the family. And we might go out to the Kingdom Hall on Avenue A in Yuma and maybe eat a turkey leg in front of the Kingdom Hall and film ourselves eating a turkey leg.
Well, I mean, bring the wishbone with you, too, and wish that some of those people would leave,
I'm going to tell Gilbert we're going to film ourselves in front of the Kingdom Hall eating a turkey leg, and hopefully he won't get impeached. They impeached him last time. He served in the governing body.
Yeah. Well, listen, you enjoy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Well, the same to you,
Bye-bye.
Jesse. Yeah. All right. So who'd like to? Yeah, go ahead.
It's Angela. It's Angela.
Yeah, Angela.
How are you doing, Rick?
Good.
Hi.
Good.
Well, I just wanted to say, it is a really kind of a hard and strange time of year. But, here's the thing.
is that I don't really understand for the life of me why our pilgrims and the people coming across from other countries trying to start this country and then finally feeling really blessed, they decide to have a day where we give thanks to God and honor Him and glorify Him for all the abundance for the year and all the crops that grew well. And I just think of it as a whole people, God's people, His children, all of us, we should be thanking Him. And I don't really care what the religion. I mean, it really isn't a religious holiday. So I just think that they don't want to give thanks to God, number one. And then number two is that, we all don't even kind of like this holiday because it kind of always makes us think of Halloween as well, because we have all these gourds and pumpkins, people decorate with those, and it all kind of associates with Halloween. And it makes you feel like it. I don't know about you guys. I was in Worldwide Church of God, and we didn't do any decorating of any kind. We didn't really I don't think we liked the pumpkins. We didn't decorate with them. The gourds, they also represented Halloween. And so for the first time this year, I'm like, Dan, look at this funny looking pumpkin with all these warts all over it. I'm like, oh man, God is so funny. And I was talking to this lady about it at this fruit stand where they sold that stuff there. And I said, do we eat these? It says, no. Everybody's always used them for decorations. And I just think that's fascinating that, God has the fun and funny things for us to enjoy this time of year. And then not just that, but the Indian corn. And we get to have like apple cider this time of year because all the apples are coming in. And it's just such a blessing. It's such a blessing kind of a year of giving thanks to God for the abundance of the year, because there are times of famine and not enough and not good crops and bad weather. And what a blessing it is. It's considered a blessing when God gives you good crops. So I just think it's not any excuse to give thanks. That's no excuse. And I just don't buy it. And I think we all should start enjoying the beauty of fall and not think of pumpkins as something associated with Halloween, because it isn't. Neither are scarecrows trying to keep your crops from the birds coming and eating them, when they're doing what they're doing at the end of the year. And that's also not anything pagan. It's enjoying the season, falling the leaves, and just having fun with fall and enjoying it. But we don't dare enjoy it. We don't even dare go drive around looking and enjoying it because somehow it's associated with Halloween, And I don't know. I just want to say that about it. I think it's a beautiful time of the year, and we should all try to begin to look at it a little differently.
Well, I agree with you, Angela. It is a beautiful time of year, and thank you for saying that. I enjoy what you had to say here tonight because it's absolutely true. Let's enjoy it all together.
And Rick, one more thing about the pumpkin. I can't stand it how people throw those in the trash, because the thing is that they are such good food all winter long. I literally kept one in my dining room all the way until February, and then I finally cooked it up, and I had wonderful soups and pumpkin bread and pumpkin cookies, and there's so many recipes for pumpkin that use pumpkin, and it's so full of vitamins and all that. And I just want to encourage everybody to try to grab those from your neighbors before they throw them in the trash, and cook them up because they're so useful. They're so good for us.
Well, you're right.
So anyway, that's it.
Well, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Angela. Thank you very much. Go ahead. You're with us.
Well, Angela said it beautifully. The PBS show about the Puritans, they even used the holy name in that show.
Yeah, did they do that, Pixie?
Yes, it's a one-part PBS show, and it's shown every year on Thanksgiving on PBS, and they have the real diary of the people up there. They were very strict people, but they did know the holy name, and the indigenous people that we used to call Indians, they saved their bacon from starvation, and the first Thanksgiving was really in Virginia, and there too, the native tribes saved the settlers from starvation. So it's an American holiday of abundance, and to get together and help your neighbors and have a big dinner. And I think the reason the witnesses don't support it is they have so many other countries, and it's a very American holiday about our founding. And I wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving. And my recipe tip is make the cranberries from the raw cranberries in the bag. It takes no skill, and it's yummy.
Well, there you go.
Thank you for having Barbara Anderson on, because I've wondered about that story for years. So I look forward to that.
She's coming on next. Yeah. All right, we get time for one or two more. Go ahead. Yep.
Hey, Rick.
Go ahead. Go ahead. We got a sister and a fellow on there. Go ahead, a sister and a brother. Go ahead. Go ahead, sister first. All right. Well, maybe that's it. So, anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, I really think the reason, one reason they consider Thanksgiving a pagan holiday is because they don't want you to be around other ex-witnesses, you know, as far as family members and, you know, friends, what have you, because it's a family friend holiday and everybody's to get together. I mean, it's one way they can isolate you from the outside world. So,
well, there you have it. Well, Jeff, thank you for calling in. And I want to thank everyone tonight for coming into the Six Screens. And we wish you all a really happy Thanksgiving. Now, I just wanted to say, I got a couple of things to say here. Now, tomorrow we do Six Screen Sunday. We have got a momentous Sunday coming up tomorrow. Now, on Sundays, you know, we take a different stand here. We don't talk about theological issues at all on Saturday night. But tomorrow, beginning at 12 o'clock, we've got some great programs. We got a brand new program starting tomorrow. It's called Cracking the Cult Code. That's starting at 12 noon. What are cults? How do they start? What are the most dangerous cults in the world? That's coming up tomorrow. And then, of course, that's at 12 o'clock. Then at 1 o'clock, the Knowing God program. We're going to be talking about the Millions Now Living book and how wrong that was in the false prophecies of 1925. And then, of course, we go to ex-Christian witnesses' testimonies. We have testimonies, people who became Christians after leaving the witnesses. That's on at 2 o'clock. And then we do JW World News at 3 and at 4. Oh, my goodness, we have got a wonderful brand new program. It's called the Christian Court. This is an interactive, informative program that you're going to find very, very fascinating. As a matter of fact, this program is going to really bring a lot of people in. This is going to cross over into the Christian world. And we know that in Christianity, there's a broad spectrum of understanding between scriptural explanation and mixed personal opinions and peculiarities. There's always a gray area that is lacking clarity and is lacking uncertainty. Well, you're going to come into a program tomorrow that's going to be answering many questions for you, but they're non-salvation points. It's like, for example, should a Christian go to war? Should a Christian, what does a Christian do when it comes to taking the emblems? Do you take wine? Do you take grape juice? Is it necessary for a Christian to confess their sins to man? These are questions that will be answered tomorrow on the Christian Court. And that's coming up tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then we have Jay Hess, who was associated with the Watchtower writing department. He'll be on at 5 tomorrow. So join us tomorrow. Try to do that. Come into our program. You'll find it fascinating. That's tomorrow, beginning at 12 o'clock noon, Eastern Standard Time, New York time. So we'll see you all tomorrow. But we got Barbara Anderson coming up next. We're looking forward to her program tonight. And we had a great program here tonight. We had lots of people calling in, and it's all wonderful. More and more people are leaving the Watchtower. It's being exposed for the evil organization that it is. And we're going to discuss this more with Barbara coming up here very shortly. But I thank you all for coming in and being with us. And don't you guys, go ahead. Go ahead.
Could I make one last comment, Rick? It's Dan.
Go ahead, Dan. Yeah, keep it short.
Yeah, just a short comment. I just want to tell everybody listening, your life is waiting for you. When you come out of that abusive relationship with Watchtower, all the cunning, all the bullshit you're being fed, all the right's light, left is right, right is left, light is dark, dark is light. When you come out from that, your body knows what to do. You will come back to homeostasis. The fear they've implanted in you will leave, and you will discover the gifts and talents that God gave you, and you are to use them. So I just want you to know your real life is waiting for you. Thank you,
I'll go with you, Daniel. Thank you very much, Dan, for calling in. And we thank all the people for calling in tonight to JW World News. We're going to be going to Barbara Anderson. But I just want to say this. I want you guys to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in. Don't you ever give up or out, and keep waving that flag of victory. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We're going to end the program here, but don't go far. Come right back to YouTube. We'll be right back on. So see us in about 2 minutes, right back here with Barbara Anderson. So let's just do this. Let me end this program, and then we'll start the new program. I just got to get in, make sure everything is working properly here. Let's end it right here. And